communities worldwide. We broadcast diverse international content from Europe, Asia, Africa, and now right here in the USA. Watch us via Roku on your smart TV. Submit your own content to 1530entertainmentllc@gmail.com. Download the Millennium TV app from the App Store to stream our shows anywhere, anytime. Millennium TV.
Hello and welcome to Millennium News TV 24/7 Global News Update. My name is Todd David Goldfinger, and here are today's top stories. Thank you for being with us. Frank James posted dozens of videos ranting about race, violence, and his struggles with mental illness. One stands out for its relative calm. A silent shot of a packed New York City subway car in which he raises his finger to point out passengers one by one. Even as police arrested James on Wednesday in the Brooklyn subway shooting that wounded 10 people, they were still searching for a motive from a flood of details about the 62-year-old black man's life. An erratic work history, arrests for a string of mostly low-level crimes, a storage locker with more ammo, and hours of rambling, bigoted, profanity-laced videos on his YouTube channel that point to a deep, simmering anger, in quotes. This nation was born in violence. It's kept alive by violence or the threat thereof, or the threat of violence, and it's going to die a violent death, said James in a video where he takes on the moniker of Prophet of Doom. Next news. Next news, please. Firefighters scouted the drought-stricken mountainsides around a New Mexico village as they looked for opportunities to slow a wind-driven wildfire that a day earlier had burned at least 150 homes and other structures while displacing thousands of residents and forcing the evacuation of 2 schools. Homes were among the structures that had burned, but officials on Wednesday did not have a count of how many were destroyed in the blaze that torched at least 6.4 square miles, 16.6 square kilometers, of forest, brush, and grass on the east side of the community of Ruidoso, said Laura Rabon, spokesperson for the Lincoln National Forest. Rabon announced emergency evacuations of a more densely populated area during a briefing Wednesday afternoon as the fire jumped a road where crews were trying to hold the line. She told people in to get in their cars and go. New Mexico State Police released a statement late Wednesday saying 2 people have been found dead in a residence. Their identities will not be released until the Office of the Medical Examiner can positively identify them. Next news! Next news, please. An Ohio man charged with storming the U.S. Capitol and stealing a coat rack testified that he joined thousands of protesters in ransacking the building last year on what he thought were orders from then President Donald J. Trump. Dustin Byron Thompson, 38 years old, of Columbus, Ohio, said Wednesday he took to websites after being laid off from his exterminator job in March 2020. And in his pandemic doldrums, fell under Trump's sway as he bought into conspiracy theories and, in quotes, went down the rabbit hole on the internet, end quotes. On trial in U.S. District Court in Washington, Thompson testified that the claim that the election was stolen seemed credible to him because it was coming from the then president, Donald J. Trump. His defense team is the first to argue that Trump, at the time, and those connected to him were responsible for the actions of that angry mob that day, in quotes. It seems like everyone was attacking him, Trump. He needed someone to stand up for him, and I was trying to do that, end quotes, Thompson said. Next news. Texas Governor Greg Abbott on Wednesday defied intensifying pressure over his new border policy that has gridlocked trucks entering the U.S. and shut down some of the world's busiest trade bridges as the Mexican government, businesses, and even some allies urge him to relent. The two-term Republican governor, who has ordered that commercial trucks from Mexico undergo extra inspections as part of a fight with President Joe Biden's administration over immigration, refused to fully reverse course as traffic remains snarled, has stoked warnings by trade groups and experts that U.S. grocery shoppers could soon notice shortages on shelves and higher prices unless the normal flow of trucks resumes. Abbott announced Wednesday that he would stop inspections at one bridge in Laredo after reaching an agreement with the governor of neighboring Nuevo León in Mexico. But some of the most dramatic truck backups and bridge closures have occurred elsewhere along Texas's 1,200-mile border, in quotes. I understand the concerns that businesses have trying to move product across the border, end quotes, Abbott said during a visit to Laredo, in quotes. But I also know well the frustration of my fellow Texans and my fellow Americans caused by the Biden administration not securing our border, end quotes. We're going to take a short break from the daily global English news of Millennium News TV 24/7. Please stay with us. Thank you.
Millennium TV, bridging communities worldwide. We broadcast diverse international content from Europe, Asia, Africa, and now right here in the USA. Watch us via Roku on your smart TV. Submit your own content to 1530entertainmentllc@gmail.com. Download the Millennium TV app from the App Store to stream our shows anywhere, anytime. Millennium TV.
Hello and welcome back to Millennium News TV 24/7 Global News Update. Here's the continuation of today's top stories. Thank you for being with us. With his sweeping domestic agenda on hold and images of horror in Ukraine dominating headlines, President Joe Biden is scrounging for ways to demonstrate that he's still making progress for Americans at a time when many feel the country is heading in the wrong direction. 6 months out from the midterm elections, Biden's team is betting that smaller, discreet announcements can break through to voters better than talk of transformational plans that are so far only aspirational. And as the global focus is on Ukraine, the White House is eager for Americans to see Biden tackling the kitchen table issues important to them. None more so than the searing inflation exacerbated by the Russian invasion of Ukraine. Last week, that meant aides positioned big rigs outside the White House so that President Biden could talk about efforts to get more truck drivers on the road. A day later, he welcomed back former President Barack Obama for the signing of an executive order updating the Affordable Care Act. And after that, he signed bipartisan legislation intended to safeguard the U.S. Postal Service's financial future. Amen. Next news. The school closures, stay-at-home mandates, and curfews that Ohio Republican Governor Mike DeWine imposed early in the pandemic still infuriate Donald J. Trump's most loyal supporters. His dismissal of the former president's stolen election lie and criticism that Trump, in quotes, poured gas on the fire before the U.S. Capitol riot put him at odds in the state's upcoming May 3rd primary. Some notable splits with Trump. He is entering the final stretch of the campaign in a strong position to win the GOP's nomination for another four-year term. He is facing challenges from three lesser-known conservatives who could essentially split the far-right faithful, with DeWine potentially emerging as a Republican who crossed Trump's base and managed to survive. In quotes. Whatever happens in the election happens, but this was a crucial time in our history. End quotes. DeWine, 75 years old, said in an interview referring to his management of the pandemic. Next news. After the Capitol riot, longtime U.S. Representative Jim Langevin said he thought briefly that the foolishness and recklessness of dividing the country would finally stop. That didn't happen. And the Rhode Island Democrat says it's one reason why he's leaving Congress. Langevin saw some of his Republican colleagues saying enough is enough. He said he hoped they would all rededicate themselves to finding common ground, recognizing that as Americans. In quotes, we're in this together. Instead, Langevin said, the country became further divided. It was disheartening to see, in quotes, far too few Republicans, holding the former president accountable for pointing the crowd towards Congress and firing them like a cannon, he added. Langevin narrowly missed being in the Capitol building on January 6, 2021. His staff suggested he go to his office near the House floor so he'd be nearby when called to witness the vote count and certification firsthand for President Joe Biden. Langevin said, thankfully, he decided to work at the congressional office building. Next news. Next news, please. China on Thursday said it would reject any pressure or coercion over its relationship with Russia in response to a call from U.S. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen for Beijing to use its special relationship with Russia to persuade Moscow to end this war in Ukraine. Foreign Ministry spokesperson Zhao Lijian defended China's position on the war, saying it had, in quotes, made considerable efforts to de-escalate the situation, defuse the crisis, and rebuild peace. End quotes. Also, China is playing a constructive role in the Ukraine issue. End quotes. Zhao told reporters at a daily briefing. China has refused to condemn the invasion of Ukraine by strategic partner Russia, or even refer to the conflict as a war, in deference to Moscow, which used the term special military operation. In quotes. We oppose unfounded accusations and suspicions against China, nor will we accept any pressure or coercion. End quotes, Zhao said. Quotes. Time will tell that China's claims are on the right side of history. End quotes. China has also amplified Russian propaganda about the war, including unsupported claims that the U.S. and Ukraine have been developing biological weapons. That's what they think. We're going to take a short break from the daily global English news of Millennium News TV 24/7. Please stay with us. Thank you.
Millennium TV, bridging communities worldwide. We broadcast diverse international content from Europe, Asia, Africa, and now right here in the USA. Watch us via Roku on your smart TV. Submit your own content to 1530entertainmentllc@gmail.com. Download the Millennium TV app from the App Store to stream our shows anywhere, anytime. Millennium TV.
Hello, and welcome back to Millennium News TV 24/7 Global News Update. Here's a continuation of today's top stories. Thanks for being with us. Ukraine said its forces struck and seriously damaged the flagship of Russia's Black Sea Fleet, dealing a potentially major setback to Moscow's troops as they try to regroup for a renewed offensive in eastern Ukraine after retreating from much of the north, including the capital. Russia said Thursday the entire crew of the Moskva, a warship that would typically have 500 sailors on board, was forced to evacuate after a fire overnight and also reported it was badly damaged. But it did not acknowledge any attack, which, in addition to any practical impact, would also deal a major blow to Russian prestige 7 weeks into a war that is already widely seen as a historical blunder. The damage to the ship came hours after some of Ukraine's allies sought to rally new support for the embattled country. On a visit with leaders from 3 other EU countries on Russia's doorstep who fear they could be in Moscow's sights. Lithuanian President Gitanas Nausėda declared that the fight for Europe's future is happening here, in Europe, in the EU. Next news, please. Next news. A former police officer who discussed Russia's invasion on the phone, a priest who preached to his congregation about the suffering of Ukrainians, a student who held up a banner with no words, just asterisks. Hundreds of Russians are facing charges for speaking out against the war in Ukraine since a repressive law was passed last month that outlaws the spread of, in quotes, false information about the invasion and disparaging the military. Human rights groups say the crackdown has led to criminal prosecutions and possible prison sentences for at least 23 people on the false information charge, with over 500 others facing misdemeanor charges of disparaging the military that have either led to hefty fines or are expected, in quotes. This is a large amount, an unprecedentedly large amount, end quotes, of cases, said Damir Gainutinov, head of the Net Freedom's legal aid group focusing on free speech cases, in an interview with the Associated Press. Thank you. Next news. Next news. Russia's defense ministry says the fire at the Moskva cruiser, the flagship of Russia's Black Sea Fleet, has been contained. It says the vessel remains afloat and will be towed to the port. The ministry said in a statement Thursday that there is no open fire at the ship anymore, and explosions of the ammunitions have ceased. In quotes. The main missile weapons were not damaged. End quotes. The statement read. Ukrainian officials claimed, however, that the ship has sunk, saying it's a, in quotes, resounding slap in the face to Moscow's forces. Alexei Arestovich, advisor to Ukrainian president's office, said in a Facebook post that 510 crew were on board the Moskva cruiser as it sank in the Black Sea, following serious damage from a Ukrainian missile strike. In quotes, the sinking of the Moskva is a military event of colossal significance, the most significant loss by the Russian fleet since the Second World War, and the largest warship sunk anywhere in the world since 1945, end quotes, Arestovich wrote on Facebook. In the early hours of Thursday, the Russian Defense Ministry said the ship sustained, in quotes, serious damage after its ammunition detonated, in quotes, as the result of a fire, end quotes. The ministry did not ascribe the fire to a missile strike. Next news. Next news. The British government has struck a deal with Rwanda to send some asylum seekers to the African country, a move that opposition politicians and refugee groups condemned as unworkable and inhumane. Home Secretary Priti Patel is due to announce details in Rwanda on Thursday of what the UK government is calling an economic development partnership. Media reports say the government plan would see some single men who arrive in Britain from across the English Channel in small boats flown 4,000 miles or 6,400 kilometers, excuse me, to Rwanda while their asylum claims are processed. Simon Hart, the government minister for Wales, said the government would cost Britain about 120 million pounds. That is 158 million US dollars, for example. He said the goal was to break up the business model of criminal people smuggling gangs. If we have an arrangement with the Rwandan government for the proper and humane treatment of these people, then the criminal gangs will realize that their potential source of income will dry up. End quotes. Hart said. Steve Valdez Simmons, refugee director at Amnesty International, UK, said the government's shockingly ill-conceived idea will go further in inflicting suffering while wasting huge amounts of public money, end quotes. He said Rwanda's dismal human rights record made the idea even worse. We're going to take a short break from the daily global English news of Millennium News TV 24/7. Please stay with us. Thank you.
Millennium TV, bridging communities worldwide. We broadcast diverse international content from Europe, Asia, Africa, and now right here in the USA. Watch us via Roku on your smart TV. Submit your own content to 1530entertainmentllc@gmail.com. Download the Millennium TV app from the App Store to stream our shows anywhere, anytime. Millennium TV.
Hello and welcome back to Millennium News TV 24/7 Global News Update. Here is the continuation of today's top stories. Thank you for being with us. Elon Musk is offering to buy Twitter just days after the Tesla CEO said he would no longer be joining the social media company's board of directors. Twitter Incorporated said in a regulatory filing on Thursday that Musk, who currently owns slightly more than 9% of its stock and is the company's biggest shareholder, provided a letter to the company on Wednesday that contained a proposal to buy the remaining shares of Twitter that he doesn't already own. Musk offered 54.20 US dollars per share of Twitter's stock. He called that price his best and final offer, although the billionaire provided no details on financing. The offer is non-binding and subject to financing and other conditions. In quotes, I invested in Twitter as I believed in its potential to be the platform for free speech around the globe. And I believe free speech is a societal imperative for a functioning democracy. End quotes, Musk said in the filing. End quotes. However, since making my investment, I now realize the company will neither thrive nor serve this societal imperative in its current form. Twitter needs to be transformed as a private company. End quotes. Next news. Next news, please. The surging cost of energy pushed wholesale prices up a record 11.2% last month from a year earlier. Another sign that inflationary pressure is widespread in the U.S. economy. The Labor Department said Wednesday that its Producer Price Index, which measures inflation before it reaches consumers, climbed at the fastest year-over-year pace in records going back to 2010 and rose 1.4% from February. Energy prices, which soared after Russia's February 24th, 2022 invasion of Ukraine, were up 36.7% from March 2021. The wholesale inflation report came out a day after the Labor Department reported that consumer prices last month jumped 8.5% from a year earlier, the fastest annual clip since December 1981. Under pressure to combat rising prices, the Federal Reserve raised its benchmark short-term rate by a quarter point last month and has signaled that it plans several more hikes this year. Resurgent inflation isn't just a U.S. phenomenon. The United Kingdom's Office for National Statistics reported Wednesday that British consumer prices rose 7% in the 12 months that ended in March, the fastest pace in 30 years, pulled up by soaring energy costs. Next news. Next news, please. Antivirus controls that have shut down some of China's biggest cities and fueled public irritation are spreading as infections rise, hurting a weak economy and prompting warnings of possible global shockwaves. Shanghai is easing rules that confined most of its 25 million people to their homes after complaints they had trouble getting food. But most of its businesses still are closed. Access to Guangzhou, an industrial center of 19 million people near Hong Kong, was suspended this week. Other cities are cutting off access or closing factories and schools. Spring planting by Chinese farmers who feed 1.4 billion people might be disrupted. Nomura economists warned Thursday. That could boost demand for imported wheat, and other food, pushing up already high global prices. The closures are an embarrassment to the ruling Communist Party and a setback for official efforts to shore up slumping growth in the world's second largest economy. They come during a sensitive year when President Xi Jinping is expected to try to break with tradition and award himself a third 5-year term as leader. Beijing has promised to reduce the human and economic cost of its zero-COVID strategy, but Xi, on Wednesday ruled out joining the United States and other governments that are dropping restrictions and trying to live with the virus. The coronavirus. Next news, please. British authorities have authorized a coronavirus vaccine for adults made by French drug maker Valneva, despite the government's decision last year to cancel an order for at least 100 million doses. The UK is the first country to authorize Valneva's vaccine, which is also under review by the European Medicines Agency. Britain's medicines regulator said Thursday that the two-dose vaccine is intended for adults ages 18 to 50 years old, with the second dose given about a month after the first. The Valneva vaccine is made with the decades-old technology used to manufacture shots for flu and polio. It's the sixth COVID-19 vaccine the UK has cleared, and the only one that utilizes the killed virus. Scientists grow the coronavirus in a lab and then inactivate the virus so it cannot replicate or infect cells. The UK government scrapped an agreement with Valneva in September to purchase at least 100 million doses, saying at the time that British regulators probably would not have cleared the shot, I guess. Valneva said Britain canceled the deal because of supply concerns. This has been the daily global news update of Millennium News TV 24/7. Thank you for watching all over the world. Please log in to get the latest news stories, updates, editorials, current events, and we're also bridging communities worldwide. Check out MillenniumFoundationUSA.com. Please check out all of our social networking sites from Millennium News TV 24/7. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. On TikTok, we are Millennium News 24. Also, our YouTube channel. On our YouTube channel, we are News Channel M24. Thank you. Viewers now on both network broadcasting